This week's episode is in the Gamma Quadrant, involving a trade agreement with a man with a melting face. It seems that the reason for this is that this trade agreement is actually carried out with the Ferengi as a buffer, specifically this Ferengi. And it may shock you to learn that Quark has been padding the bill. And by padding it, I mean a mattress, several mattresses, some that even the daintiest of princesses couldn't feel a pee through.
And a 6% tariff was imposed to help offset the lost income of Tarkalian sheepherders.
I'm pretty sure that's buried in my Verizon bill somewhere, too. On the bridge, Worf is annoyed that the results of the latest weapons drill is subpar, which, in his defense, this is a warship. It's that you had one job meme. It's not like they're down because this is a nebula charting expedition during peace. The Dominion threat looms. They're in Dominion space, and that's not even counting the fact that the Klingons are making trouble. We're in early season 4, meaning that Worf has been on the periphery, so he's getting a subplot this week. As for Kira,
I'm fasting. Today is tomorrow.
I thought she said today is tomorrow, and I was like, maybe you should suck on an orange slice or something to get the blood sugar up. No, she's referring to the anniversary of the day that Cisco arrived, which Dax says he does find a little uncomfortable. I mean, hearing the announcement everyone's decided to celebrate the anniversary of your arrival sounds heartwarming until you hear it involves a fast. Then it just feels weird. But we close out the teaser with the arrival of 2 Jem'Hadar ships. I'd say this calls for a granola bar. Surprisingly, the Jem'Hadar are not here for the Defiant, but for the Karama. In fact, they run. The Jem'Hadar pursue right into the atmosphere of a gas giant.
Cisco to O'Brien.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm taking the ship into the atmosphere.
You know, I like that there's just no context given. O'Brien's just strolling along through engineering and then here's, Chief, I'm going to do 50 barrel rolls in 60 seconds. Cisco out. Heading into this is an interesting choice. We normally don't see full-size starships in Star Trek entering an atmosphere, and it's not like gas giants are easier options there. They're not going to be able to cloak, and the torpedo guidance systems aren't going to be effective with all that crap out there. They can target phasers manually at least, and Kira has an idea from the Resistance days that might help. An echolocation system of a sort. To let you in ahead of time, this episode is a full-on submarine with spaceships story. As for Droopy, he gets sent down to join Quark so he's not underfoot. Now he gets to deal with the next stage of the swindling, the cover-up. Quark says the contracts are messed up because of Rom, but no, that's not flying. Being cheated and lied to does not improve his mood any, meaning Quark's best chance of not being blackballed from doing business in the Gamma Quadrant is them all being killed, which on a cost-benefit analysis might be less than ideal, but not necessarily taken off the table. The space sonar, like regular sonar but in space, picks up the Karama ship and the closing Jem'Hadar and send up a flag of where the Defiant itself is. The Defiant takes a few shots, and the ship does not appreciate that. I mean, it was built to keep pressure in, not keep pressure out. All told, this has really left them screwed, really screwed. I hear at this very moment funds are being raised to help them by Tarkalian sheepherders. We need an answer.
Cisco to O'Brien.
O'Brien here.
Chief, how many times can we beam a cat between 2 transporter pads before it gets mad? They're going to use atmospheric probes as torpedo guidance systems, only there's a hull breach, and they'll need to seal the area even though there's people in there. See, not only was this a submarine episode, it was supposed to actually be underwater. When the script was presented, David Mack and John Ordover, writing partners who would later work on It's Only a Paper Moon, cooked it up after watching Das Boot. It was seen as a great movie, but impossible to be a show. Apparently, Ira Steven Behr kept teasing, "Well, we can always do that submarine movie," during the season. Anyway, this is relevant because the breach, well, was supposed to be water. Water flooding tends to be fast, with lots of pressure, and more to the point, is more intimidating than a cloud. Well, things go bad and Dax gets knocked down, so Bashir rushes back to help her, sealing themselves inside to protect the ship while trying to keep her safe. He's able to help her, but they're trapped now, and their communications can't reach the bridge. Good news, though. Dax's efforts to fix the ship worked, and they stopped sinking, which cheers Quark up. He takes this moment to compliment Droopy's business sense. It's a natural connection when hearing and having business instincts are the same thing, like smelling a good deal might be. He talks about how they can cheat the Federation together.
You are despicable.
I went with Droopy when I should have gone with Daffy. Speaking of wabbit season, duck season, Cisco says we need to be wary quiet as we're hunting Jemadar, going into low power mode. Cisco tells Worf to send out one of their new torpedoes, set it to home in on the first metal thing it finds. The problem is, if the Jemadar ship isn't as close as they think it is, the torpedo will likely home in, and while if it returns to you it's yours, this is a case where 'tis better to give than to receive, if I may mix aphorisms. Still, Cisco implies what we soon find is the case. The Jemadar are hunting them, and launching the torpedo is all it takes to get an ass full of energy blasters. The Jemadar ship goes down, but the Defiant has taken a pounding, and O'Brien thinks the bridge has been wiped out. It hasn't, but all the power is down, and Cisco struck his head. Kira stabilizes him, but he has a concussion, so they'll need a real medic. The one surviving redshirt goes to find one while Worf plans to go to engineering and try to run things from down there. Kira has to try to keep Cisco from passing out, but can't risk the effects of a stimulant. Not many medical dramas have the doctor ordering head trauma victims espresso and a pack of Marlboros. Speaking of lung health, when Dax comes around, Bashir tells her that she breathed in fluorine, which isn't terribly good for you, even if you're a Trill. They're stuck down here, with no way to call for help, and only a few hours of breathable air left. So while they reflect on their situation, we return to Quark and Droopy, where Quark's insistence that what he's doing is what people in business do, see what they can get away with, doesn't really match with what his compatriot thinks.
The Karama believe that merchandise has a set value, determined by the raw materials and the labor involved in creating it. Factor in transportation costs and a reasonable profit margin, and you arrive at a fair price.
What this all really is, then, is a debate about business philosophies. This isn't actually really a representation of any kind of school of economics, because, well, neither is actually correct. It's purely a way of how one wants to see it. I mean, the way that he describes what a reasonable price is might be something that Adam Smith or Karl Marx would have said, but that's essentially regarded as the same as Newtonian physics would be. Modern economics would say that price is determined by the value that is placed upon it, which varies by the individual and their needs and wants. For instance, someone in New York City would likely balk at paying $50 for a case of bottled water, but if they were stranded in the desert, would pay that much for just one bottle. The bottle is the same, the water is the same, the circumstances have changed. Likewise, examined from the point of view of either materials or rarity, a 1952 Mickey Mantle baseball card is no more valuable than any other 1952 baseball card. But those other cards are not worth millions of dollars because nobody values them that highly. Again, I'm just approaching this from a pure economic point of view. I'm certainly not saying Quark's view in this whole thing about cheating and exploitation is right. You can discuss what E equals MC squared means without saying you endorse nuclear weapons. Indeed, Quark's perspective is very much not economics, unless maybe you wanted to count behavioral economics. He's all about how it's the greed, the thrill of the risk, and all of that. I mean, yeah, the thrill of the risk might explain some things, like, say, making the Craven movie. But other than that, generally businesses are risk averse. I don't believe YOLO is an economic course taught at the Harvard Business School. Economics is a social science, one that is all about the matching of means with wants. To be clear, economics and the free market are not the same thing. Socialism is economics. Marxism is economics. So the idea here is that what we're seeing is the different ways that these two are approaching the concept of how to match means with wants. The Karma seem to approach it as perhaps sort of like a duty or something that someone has. Yes, you profit from it, but the larger purpose is to ensure that means are being used to provide the needs and wants of others. Quark's philosophy is that it's all a kind of a game there, and the goal is to win it. And you win it by getting the most out of each transaction. Yeah, okay, it's another of my patented examples of taking 3 minutes to state the obvious. Look, I'm not the one who decided to put an economic discussion in the middle of the submarine episode. Meanwhile, Worf arrives in engineering and gets down to the important job of complaining. The panel that's been set up for him down here does not conform to the one on the bridge, and that's seriously annoying him. To be fair, when something like that happens with my keyboard, I tend to get peeved as well. On the actual bridge, Kira babbles about going on a 4-shift rotation until she realizes this is probably not a good choice. I mean, for a conversation, it might be a good idea from a personnel perspective. Sisko isn't taking notes on this thing, though, so probably should save that for later. Kira laments the problem is he's a revered figure in her religion, so she doesn't feel comfortable having a personal conversation with him. She only ever talks about work. So he asks her to tell a story. That should be easy enough. What's not so easy are coping with the incoming torpedoes. Now is a really bad time to take a punch to the jaw, I'd say. They dodge one, but the other... Don't worry, we put our best men on it. As Quark notes, leaving will accomplish nothing. That torpedo isn't going to just blow up this room, it's going to take the rest of the ship with it. The idea of waiting for an expert to come along is appealing until the torpedo starts making weird noises. That says maybe being passive observers won't end well. Engineering recognizes, they can't get over there, so Worf says to reinforce structural integrity so if the torpedo goes off it won't damage the rest of the ship, just in case 2 guys with MBAs can't defuse it. O'Brien takes him aside, though, noting that he's riding the men kind of hard. They're not bridge officers, they're problem solvers. And they need a bit of encouragement.
Before, what you're trying to do was called negging. It was called reverse psychology, and incels didn't invent it, Bugs Bunny did.
So Worf soon comes by to say he has a plan but needs a weapon. Can they give him one? They work out that they can, a one-shot blast of phasers from the deflector, and Worf gives them the okay to make it so. While they see to that, Quark and Droopy get the torpedo open, and the 2 elements are identified. One of them will cut the power and shut the torpedo down so it's harmless. The other will blow them up. He knows this because they sell these very torpedoes to the Jemadar, which means A, he sold defective merchandise, and B, selling weapons to dictators seems a bit more despicable than swindling. So we've got to make a choice, but Droopy doesn't have the lobes to make one.
You're thinking too much. You just have to reach in and... pick one.
See, this is why you don't threaten blackballing Quark. You take away any incentive not to take crazy chances. Droopy sees what Quark means about big risks, big wins. It was exhilarating. And he's starting to see what Quark means about maybe treating this as less of a job and more of a competition. I hope we've all learned a valuable lesson. Kira finishes her story for Sisko and starts another, while Worf gets his big moment. He lures the Jemadar to look at the probe, and then fires the phasers that the engineers have whipped up. It blowed up real good. In the coda, Droopy's frown is turned upside down as he starts taking Quark to the cleaners at the Dabo table. Dax rescues Bashir from one of Morn's long, boring stories, and O'Brien shows Worf that you do have to yank the reins a little with these guys. And after work, Sisko asks if Kira would like to join him watching a baseball game. The end. Post-episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to the Tarkalian sheepherders. If you'd be pulling your own weight, none of this would have happened. All scores are relative to their series. Final score for Starship down is 5 out of 10. It is a typical DS9 episode as far as its quality goes, combining the tension of a slow hunt-and-be-hunted plotline with character material. Bashir and Dax address their early dynamic, where he pursued her so intensely that he even fantasized about them being stranded on a broken runabout together. And her response, much to her infuriation, insinuates that she misses being chased. Kira is forced to acknowledge the complication of their relationship as Sisko plays a role in her belief system even while he himself struggles with such ideas. It kind of has elements of a bottle show and an action episode at the same time. The chemistry between Quark and our guest alien, played by James Cromwell, is based upon their time in the theater together. They both used to do Shakespeare and so had a genuinely good time playing off each other. I'm not sure if this contributed at all, but it wasn't all that much later that James Cromwell was cast for Star Trek First Contact. Taking the whole episode together, I think it's a fine episode of what DS9 does well.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I think we have a winner.